name is Brandon, and welcome to Audio Addiction, where you can find the latest album reviews, you can find our band interviews, and you can find live video of the concerts that we get. If I sound a little nasally or a little off, I'm getting over a cold. Just been kind of nursing that all week, so if I haven't been trying to post too many album reviews, now you know why. But feeling a little bit better, obviously, so. And I obviously wanted to get these reviews out as well to you guys so you can check these bands out. Yeah, so hopefully by next week I'll be a little bit better and back into the swing and things. But if you enjoy what I do, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure to hit that like button too. And help you keep you in the loop of what we do here at Audio Addiction in general. So without further ado, guys, tonight we're going to be talking about Deaf Havana's new record, All These Countless Nights. So, for those of you who haven't heard of this band, they've been around for a while. I don't know how long, but I know they've been around for a while because I've been a fan for some time. The songs that got me into this band were Nicotine and Alcohol Saved My Life and I'm a Bore mostly. While sonically they are very different, I would say Nicotine and Alcohol was more of a post-hardcore sort of vibes, and I'm a Bore mostly went more in just a straight rock direction. Um, I've liked equally. I like them more, both equally in terms of that. But I will admit I haven't been the best of fans. I haven't checked out their previous two records, or maybe they did another record. But I know they've had a few in between this one, and I just haven't listened to them. I just didn't. I don't know if I just didn't hear about them, or I just didn't get around to it. It's just something that just didn't graze my mind at that point. But um, the ironic thing about it is that I was checking out one of their singles that they released, Trigger, on their Spotify, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. I think it was an excellent track, and I wanted to see if the rest of the album kind of held up to that sort of level. So we'll get into the first track, which is Ashes, Ashes. I was gonna say Ashes and Ashes, but it's just Ashes, Ashes. Um, the vocals and guitar, I like that intro part. I think that's very kind of um, not wouldn't necessarily unique, but I really enjoy that. Just the simplicity of it. I think that just is something to point out and something to know. And I really honestly have missed the vocalist so much. I think he just has a soulfulish sort of voice to him. He also has this very gritty tone, which wasn't really apparent on the older stuff that I listened to. So it's cool that he kind of picked that up, and it just adds to his overall vocal arsenal. Also, I enjoy a lot of the harmonization throughout the track. I like that he has sort of that like glistening sort of falsetto, and then he can get really kind of gritty with his voice. I think that's a really nice balance and juxtaposition between the two. So I really enjoyed that, and I also feel like instrument wise, I feel like the arrangement complements the vocalist very well. In terms of that, and I think just both affect each other in the best way possible. And I also enjoy kind of the group vocals in the bridge. I think it's just something to note. And I always enjoy when bands do that kind of group vocal thing. I think it's very kind of cool. It may not be the most interesting thing, but I think I always enjoy that for some reason. So we'll move on to track number 2, which is Trigger. Like I mentioned, it's one of my favorite tracks off the record, without a doubt. I really enjoy the catchy instrumentation on this track. Anything from the bass to the guitars to the drums. I think they just did a spot on job with that. I think the bass line just grooves on this track, and I think it's something to note throughout the whole record is that some of these tracks have just a bass lead at the beginning, which is something that is unique to this album, I would say, without a doubt. And it's something that when I think of this album, I'm like, ooh, this one has some really good bass lines. And but that's something I typically don't pick out, but it's something that's really cool to mention on this album in particular. Again, with the harmonies, I think they just did a really excellent job of just, matching the vocalist, just his mid-range level singing with some of the falsetto-y sort of parts. I feel like that's a really cool bit in the whole album and this track in general. And then instrumentation wise, this reminds me a lot of Transit. And I love the band Transit, so track was kind of right up my alley in terms of that. And I think they really made a really banging chorus on this track in particular. And so I enjoyed this one a lot. So moving on into track number 3, which is Love. I like the kind of weird guitar effect at the beginning of the track. I am a guitar player myself, so that's something that I pick out typically throughout albums. But I really enjoyed this one. I think it's something odd, but something cool at the same time. And it's something that I picked out for sure. I also enjoyed the drum opening at the beginning. I think that's something to point out as well. I think that I like that other instruments are kind of taking the lead at the beginning of tracks. It's not always guitar. It's not always vocals and guitar. I think it's something cool to note in the album, and something that I enjoyed and something that I picked out. And like I said, I like the vocal variety between the lows, mids, and falsettos. I think it's just something that he just excels at, and obviously, it's something that is really, I don't know, just something really cool, and just how they arranged it. I think they just arranged it very well, and I like the piano at the end of this track. I think it just adds a nice little kind of finishing touch to the track, and so I really enjoyed this one. So we'll move on to track number 4, which is Happiness. I would definitely say this one's a favorite of mine off this record. I like the dirty guitar verses. Just it's something that I pick out and something that I like to pick out when I listen to tracks. The vocal performance was spot on as well on this track, and I think I definitely picked out some female vocals in the track, or maybe it could have been falsetto. Somebody can quote me on that. But I really enjoyed the kind of play off of some of the female vocals with the vocalist of the band. I think that's really something to note and something to pick out. I like the balance between those two. I also enjoy kind of the lead work. I know that adds kind of a I don't know. It kind of adds like this like fullness and ambience to the track. It just makes it really kind of, again, add this sort of fullness to the track, and it's a really great track to check out. So we'll move on to track number 5, which is Fever. I like the distorted bass intro with the drums. I think that's something cool, and again, I like that they're switching it up, and it's not kind of the same generic sort of intro. I like that they're trying to add different vibes, different flavors to the tracks. I like that the bass again and the drums get some spotlight time. I would say primarily, at least for me, Fever was probably the weakest track for me off the record. It's just something that didn't strike me as something interesting, and considering that I enjoyed 1 through 4, this one just wasn't up my alley. So we'll move on to track number 6, which is Like a Ghost. This one is another one of my favorites. I'm gonna have a lot of favorites out on this record, but I enjoyed the kind of clean guitar intro. I think this track has a really cool groove to it, almost like soulfully R&B. It's really weird, but at the same time, it's really cool. I like the kind of talk box guitar part, and I would say probably the pre-chorus. I think that's something to point out, and not a lot of bands do that, so it's something that I found unique to that track. Also, like I mentioned, it has a lot of soul vibes to it. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but I really enjoy that, and that's probably why I enjoy this song a lot. It's got this kind of soulfulish R&B vibes to it, so something to pick out. And I really like the guitar solo on this track as well. I think that's really something to point out too. So we'll move on to track number 7, which is Pretty Low. This one is another favorite. I like the guitar intro with that kind of delayed, reverby sort of sound. I just like the overall, just the sonically, I think it sounds really cool. I also like that his vocals seem really like genuine and real. I know that sounds like a weird way to describe vocals, but I just like that it's kind of has some feeling, it has some soul to it, like I mentioned earlier. It just seems very like real and stuff like that. So I really enjoy that aspect of his vocals. This one also has a really huge, nice chorus. I really enjoyed that as well. I feel like it's something notable to pick out as well. Another great guitar solo. I think there's a lot of great guitar solos on this record, in general. So really enjoyed that, and I like the lead, loving the vocals in the track, and just the lead and the harmonies and just the vocal lines in general. I think they really kind of just hit it spot on with that. So we'll move on to track number 8, which is England. I also enjoyed this one a lot. I would consider it a favorite as well. Really groovy guitar intro with the bass. I think they definitely used like a pitch shifter or a fuzz or something like that. So I really enjoyed that. That was something cool to point out and something unique to this track as well. The leads kind of mix and mingle throughout the whole track, which I enjoy a lot. So that's cool. The song structure on this track is really cool as well. Just in terms of just that intro, just threw me for a loop, but I really enjoyed it a lot in the best way possible. I think that the vocalist does a lot more in the lower range, which is really cool considering that, you know, most of these tracks are in the mid range, so it's kind of cool to see that sort of lower range get some love. And then also I enjoy the kind of like harmonies and extra vocals. I think that's just something to point out throughout the whole record that I enjoyed. So we'll move on to track number 9, which is Seattle. I like that this they kind of slowed it down. They went for like kind of a slower track. It does have these sort of folky vibes with, you know, the violins and stuff like that. Piano. It feels very folksy. So I really enjoy that aspect of it. I think it's something different from a lot of these tracks have a lot of soul and R&B and rock vibes. So it's kind of cool to see that, you know, opposite end of that track. And then, like I mentioned, I like that the piano kind of meshes with all the other instruments in this track. I think that that just makes it spot on my opinion. So we'll move on to track number not 10, which is St. Paul's. I was gonna screw that up, and I kind of did, but anyway, getting back to St. Paul's, I like the dual vocals in the track in general, and I would say, in terms of vocally, I think this one's one of my favorite um vocal lines in the whole album. I think that's something to point out too. I like that just the dual vocals in this track, and instrumentation wise, another solid track. I definitely wouldn't put this in my favorite tracks, but I do like the vocal performance in this track in general. So we'll move on to track number 11, which is Sing. Um, to me, it has kind of a classic rock sort of intro, very reminiscent of Led Zeppelin, in my opinion. I think it has kind of that sort of Led Zeppelin-y rock sort of intro to it. I also enjoy that it kind of builds up towards the bridge. I think that's something cool to add to the song structure of this track. And another super solid chorus on this track in general. And the vocal layering is on point on this track as well. And so I really enjoyed that one. And so the last track on the record, track number 12, is Pensacola 2013. I think they kind of just, in the last few tracks, I would say Seattle on, they kind of just mellowed out. Sting being the obvious outlier in that regard. But I feel like they definitely kind of mellowed it out in terms of that. But I think it's another super solid vocal performance. I'm definitely liking the instrumentation. I think the solo was pretty good on this track, and I think it's just a solid way to kind of round out the record and get you excited for, you know, the beginning of the record again if you're gonna cycle through. So my pros and cons on the record. Um, I think it's definitely a solid rock record. I think it mixes a whole bunch of genres: R&B, soul, folk, even some classic rock in here or there. I think it's just a really solid record since the last time I've listened to them. I think, you know, people were saying that their last record really wasn't too great. So I'm glad that they kind of went back to their roots, went in more that kind of rock direction, and did something that they probably enjoy making, and are proud of, certainly. So and that the fans enjoy, of course. I think they do a really good job of this record. Some cons that I have, sometimes it feels a little slow, especially, I would say Seattle, St. Paul. I think those are some slower tracks that you can kind of mow through. But overall, I think it's a really solid record in general. So my rating for this record is a 9.1 out of 10. I think it's probably one of the most solid rock records I've heard in a minute. But Lower Than Atlantis is putting out a new record next week, so maybe they might take the throne on that. Who knows? I love that band a lot too, so I'm excited for that record. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Have you heard of Deaf Havana? What do you think of the record? Do you think that they've gone back to their roots? Did you like previous records? Anything, let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to start a conversation about this band. And what's your thoughts on their older records, just because I haven't listened to them and I'd like to know if it's worth the time to check them out. So thank you guys for checking out the review. Like I mentioned earlier, if you enjoy it, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also make sure to hit that like button as well. And thank you guys for checking out the album review, and we'll be chatting with you soon. Peace. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Of course, if you enjoy what we do, make sure to go check out the other series we do. We do album reviews, we do band interviews, and we do live videos, so definitely go check that out. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps our channel, helps us grow. Make sure to hit that like button as well. Go follow us on social media. That's all down below. We try to keep that as updated as possible. We also made a new website where we'll be posting photos of upcoming concerts and stuff like that, which you can go check out at audioaddictionmedia.com, and come get your fix with us, guys. Talk to you later. Deuces.